Hello, this is Paul Puckridge, the Training Director of the Success Institute. Thank you for joining me today. In this lesson, we're going to look at the three management perspectives. And we take today's lesson from the program, The 7 Pillars of Management, which I'm sure you're aware of. The 7 Pillars of Management is a 2-day management and leadership development program ideally suited for middle managers and emerging talent. In saying that, we've had many different supervisors, team leaders, and even employees who are preparing at some point for management attend the course and get a lot from the program. So enough of the advertising, let's get straight to the seminar. If you ever get a chance to travel to Egypt at least once in your lifetime, I'd strongly encourage you to go to Giza, just outside of Cairo, and be mesmerized by the Great Pyramids. And you might be asking yourself, what has this got to do with a management seminar? Well, everything. Because what we're looking at here is exactly the way that we teach your managers how to understand the three different perspectives in managing and leading their people, their tasks, their projects, and the objectives. And we're going to take the idea of the pyramid and apply it into our roles as managers. You see, as a manager, there are three different areas where we need to focus on. And whether we're talking about managing a team, managing simply ourselves, or managing an entire organization, each manager responsible for his or her area needs to manage at three levels. The first level is what we call the strategic perspective. And in the context of a manager of, let's say, a department or a team, we might say that the strategic perspective for a manager is the next 12 months ahead. In some organizations, it could be more than that, but for the context of this program, we'll look at 12 months ahead. The second perspective is what we call the tactical. And in relation to the tactical, we'd say that a manager must think and plan and prepare and work 1 to 2 months ahead of where they are today. And the third perspective is the operational perspective. And in the context of a middle manager, we'd say that this middle manager needs to think about what's happening this week, operationally. So what does all this mean? It means that the reason that we are on the payroll is to manage from strategic to operational. One of the problems we find in many workplaces, and certainly with many managers who don't have adequate training, is that they come into work and tend to manage at the pointy end of the pyramid. In other words, they get caught up in operational activities and matters. In other words, they get involved in stuff, never realizing that what they do operationally affects what they achieve tactically, which then affects what is accomplished strategically. And part of teaching this at the 7 pillars, and as I'm showing you today, is that everything is connected. And just as the base of the pyramid carries the weight of the remainder of the pyramid, so it's critical that each manager, regardless of his or her role, understands the reason they're on the payroll, their strategic perspective. So what are their goals? What are their objectives? What do they have to achieve over the course of the coming 12 months? So in regards to the strategic perspective, we would get them to think about their yearly planning. So what is it that has to be achieved by the end of the year? And it's interesting to note that there are managers, believe it or not, who attend this type of training who really can't clearly clarify what it is exactly they have to achieve. And of course, you and I both know that it's not just about saying I have to give good customer service, for example, but we have to be far more defined than that. This is where the KPIs come in. In addition to thinking about the year ahead and planning for that or adjusting your plan, we also have to know what our goals or objectives are for the 12 months ahead, as well as having a vision for the 12 months. The tactical perspective is all about the monthly plan, or the plan for the next couple of months. And it's important that a manager is always thinking not just about what has to be achieved this month, that's operational thinking, but where they have to be by the end of the next month, and as part of that monthly planning, preparing for that. What goals have to be achieved? What projects must be accomplished? Do they have milestones which they have to manage, and where are they within the life cycle of a project? They're things which are critical in managing tactically, month by month, quarter by quarter. As I mentioned earlier, many managers these days, in addition to their daily work, are also managing what we might call mini projects or initiatives, either by themselves or in a team. Just as an experiment, if you were to go out of your office right now or work area and say to 2 or 3 managers, can you tell me what are the 1 or 2 really critical goals that must be achieved by the end of next month? I wonder how many of them would be. Finally, let's look at the operational perspective. As we come into work on a Monday, there are several questions we must ask ourselves before we can successfully start achieving the goals for the week. The first question every manager must ask him or herself is, what are my weekly goals? What is it that I must achieve or our team must achieve by the end of the week? Once you know what those goals are, now looking at your calendar, your appointments, your meetings, your other commitments, you now go about creating a set of weekly plans, which might include delegation, training, or other things for your team. At this point, you start to delegate anything that isn't adding value to your team so that you as a manager can spend more time on the bigger picture, working towards your tactical goals. And we have to make sure before we start our week that what we're doing this week, or at least a significant part of what we're doing this week, is in some way helping us move towards those monthly or tactical goals. So as we conclude today, let's look at some action steps that we can take away from this short session. Firstly, are you clear and are your managers clear on your strategic goals for the following 12 months? Do you know exactly what must be delivered or achieved by the end of that 12-month period? Secondly, up until today, do you think that you have been thinking and acting tactically? In other words, what you're doing is, in addition to getting things done today, realizing that what has to be achieved in the month or 2 ahead is more tactical versus operational. One of the challenges, as I mentioned earlier, that many managers have is thinking too operationally. Do you think it would be more beneficial to start thinking tactically if you don't already? And what about your managers? Often the reason you're in a more senior role is because you do think tactically, but are there some managers in your team or department or organization that perhaps are just keeping their neck above the waterline? And thirdly, make sure that you focus time each week completing tasks or projects that are working towards tactical goals. Some managers block off an hour a day. They put it in their diary and they treat it as an appointment with themselves. Some managers block off half a day a week or a day a week. What we need to be aware of is that what we're doing today must, or at least some of the day, must be working towards the bigger picture. So, if you'd like to know more, feel free to email us or phone us, or if you'd like to know how we can help you, we're here to help. Thanks so much for watching this video. We'll have another one in a month's time. It could be video, it might just be audio. We'll have to wait and see. Until then, enjoy every success.